bit over me. I
Yeah.
don't think I was the smartest kid in the class, or I guess like not even like considered smart at all. The whole idea of like engineering was absurd to me, even when I was in middle school, because
Hello, guys. Welcome to our YouTube channel. This is going to be two people talking about some.
this is the brownest way you could ever introduce a YouTube channel. I swear, like like on those YouTube tutorials where you go like, "Hello guys, let me teach you about those algorithms. This is a pointer algorithm." That's how it started. It's super
You know
chill.
what?
Start.
You know what? You do it. Go for it.
All right. Okay. Fine.
Uh,
Fine. Fine. Hello. Hello. This is Mo, and this is my brown English man teacher who's also like who's teaching people how to use YouTube. Arnav. So I guess like this channel is more or less about us kind of talking through our journey about universities, our lifestyle, and both of us having to move to Canada at two different stages of our life. Um, I moved to Canada right before high school, so I moved to Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. Went to high school here, and then after that, I went to university, studied the same program as Arnav, studied computer engineering, graduated, then left Toronto. Now I'm currently living in Seattle, Washington. And Arnav?
Yeah. So as Mo said, he graduated. He came to Canada when he was really young, but on the other hand, I came here when I was 18. So I came here for university as an international student, paying three times the fees. I went through different challenges, and it was very interesting when Mo brought this idea because we both went through different phases of lives, I think. So I was very curious to know more about you, Mo, and I don't know if you're
Um,
curious.
Damn,
um,
absolutely not. I know everything about this guy. So like honestly, it can only be I can fill up in one page and I will be done with it. But no,
yeah,
I mean absolutely.
yeah. So hopefully, you and me and our viewers, we can learn a lot about you and hopefully a little bit about me as well. Um, so yeah, let's just quickly begin with your, like your childhood story, like you moving here. I'm assuming at the age of like 7 or 8. I actually don't know when you moved here.
That
Uh,
is
yeah.
definitely not true.
Okay.
I'm 26 right now. I've lived in Canada for like 14 years.
Okay.
So right before high school actually.
Uh,
That's when I just got here.
okay.
Lived in Toronto. I went to a high school in North York in
Oh.
Toronto, York Mills Collegiate Institute. But my parents and I we lived in Scarborough, so I guess like me growing up in Toronto really means that me growing up in Scarborough, but me going to high school in North York.
So growing up in the school in North York, right? Like how, like of course, like being an immigrant, like I know, like especially a brown immigrant, we generally are focused towards engineering, etc. But was there a particular interest that you had for engineering, and were you really wanted to go into UofT as well?
Hmm. So, bit over me, I
Yeah.
don't think I was the smartest kid in the class, or I guess like not even like considered smart at all. The whole idea of like engineering was absurd to me, even when I was in middle school. Because so my dad was in military. I kind of always envisioned myself going into the military. Either I loved like planes and I wanted to be a fighter pilot. Um, I guess like from the idea that my dad was in the military, I eventually kind of grew out of it because um, I spent like equal amount of time in Canada as well as I did in Bangladesh. So it's literally I'm almost you could almost say that like it's split in half exactly.
Right.
So I think after moving to Canada, that dream kind of died because I don't think I felt super tied. At that time, I was also not a Canadian citizen, but since I moved out of Bangladesh, there was no tie. Like I didn't have a lot of ties to the military of Bangladesh nor the military of Canada.
Hmm.
So eventually, I realized that like I was kind of lost in middle school slash early high school, and I eventually realized that like I kind of like math and I kind of really like sciences. Like
Yeah.
it made a lot of sense to me. I wasn't really good at memorizing stuff, but like at least like with logic, I could like solve like the mathematical stuff or like science stuff. Literally the story of every brown kid again,
Yeah, yeah.
going into STEM.
And
Um,
yeah, I mean, for me is as well, right? Like, I mean, none of us like were taught engineering. There is no course as engineering in school for us.
correct.
Like even in Delhi, like in India, we don't really have particularly a course that is like, hey, like go build this stuff.
Mhm.
Actually, coming from a school in like Delhi, they actually do have a robotics club, which is pretty cool and pretty advanced for India. To be honest, like not a lot of schools have that.
Mhm.
Um, and they did push. Very few people did go towards it because it is considered nerdish and like like people who go there are generally not the most cool guys, I guess, from
Mhm.
school perspective. So that's the reason like I didn't join it as well. Like I was like I don't want to be classified as the school nerd. So
Fair.
but
Which
yeah.
you are, by the way.
Sure, sure. I'll take that. I'll take that. But yeah, like so basically, like I went with basically saying, hey, I know math, I know science. Let's try engineering. So I guess like I want to open up to you because this is definitely an important topic, an interesting topic to me, and we'll obviously like over the course of next videos we'll be talking about this even further. But why U of T? Like, why did you want to join University of Toronto?
Oh, sorry. Did I tell you about the three choices that I was given in life? It was a doctor. It was either I could be a doctor, engineer, or failure. And since I didn't take bio in grade 11, one of them was gone. So I could either be an engineer or a failure.
Yeah.
And unlike every other
You
immigrant
chose to be a
parents who come into
failure.
Canada, your children can only go into one of the two prestigious schools, which is one being University of Toronto, the other one being Waterloo University.
Hmm.
Um, but jokes aside, I think it kind of ties back to the question that you asked me last time, like why engineering? When I realized that like I had this tie or like I kind of like felt like I was really enjoying math and sciences,
Mhm.
it just picked it's like something changed inside of me. I was like, damn, I can either be the kid who, like who can keep on blaming their parents for coming to Canada and not affording a lifestyle that I could see my other white friends like going into vacations every summer, or my other, or not honestly, I say white friends, like literally every other race, even like the brown kids that I was seeing, they would go on vacations every summer, and I would be like, well, my parents aren't doing that. I would kind of get sad. But then
Yeah.
I was like, my parents were doing the best that they could at that time, and they gave me the best lifestyle that they could afford, and which is more than what I can ever think of now that I've grown older.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can take some control of my life, see what I'm passionate about, and see it through to like what it leads me into. So that's why I kind of chose. I was like, I really like chemistry. I really like physics. So I was like, I wanted to do engineering.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Like for me, like obviously, like we like coming from outside the country, we look at world rankings, and like the fact that you had two choices and you got one of those choices, that's just incredible, right? Of course, like for me, like coming from India, like I applied everywhere. I have obviously applied in India, I applied in Canada, Australia, UK, and at the end chose the highest world ranking university, which ended up UofT. So that being like like having that resources that your parents provided, and like the fact that you were had the ability to choose between the two is impressive. Okay, what was your experience like at university though? Like, did it meet the expectations that you had at UofT?
So I think having done my high school here in Canada, university was super challenging.
Yeah.
Like again, as I said, like I was not the smartest kid in class, but like still, I could at least, I think grade 11, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12 kind of felt like I was breezing through. High school was not super challenging for me, and I can see it, and I didn't take any special classes, but just going to regular high school here was super easy.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I say this, I'm not trying to brag or anything. It's just like because, in all honesty, it wasn't super challenging, and I think it's like a well-known secret. It's like our Canadian education system in high school isn't as challenging as most other countries. So when I went into University of Toronto in my first year, I saw like a lot of the kids who were going into the school, they all had similar averages in high school as I did. I got into university with a 96% average.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm sure a lot of the Canadian students who got in had even more. Most of them had even more grades, which is like, so I was already getting into the very competitive space.
Yeah.
On top of that, I had a lot of friends who were coming from a lot of these other countries, such as yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can ask you what you have completed, but I think competing against that was super challenging because it's like the first year, mostly I can ask you how it felt like. I'll ask you after. But for me, it felt like I was trying to catch up and I was trying to like catch up with these other kids who have already done these things. The professors wouldn't spend a lot of time going over going over these topics, and like going through high school here, it just felt like high school teachers were spoon feeding us the knowledge versus university felt like, hey, you need to study. If you don't study, you're going to get kicked out.
Right.
And so it was one or the other. Compared to this, I would like to ask you, what was your experience in first year, and like how did it feel like?
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of right. Like, I mean, when I came here, it wasn't really my first choice, to be honest, to get out of the country. I wanted to stay in the country, came here, and I did expect the competition to be more. I did expect
Mm,
it to be really competitive, and the truth is, like as you mentioned, there was a bit of a fear when you were younger, when you came here about like there being issues, racism, etc., all of that stuff. We did have the same talk. My parents had the same conversation. They were like, if someone meets you in a dark alley, give them the money, don't fight, all of that stuff. So there is that aspect for sure. We had that conversation, but also there was another part where people are like, okay, now you're spending X amount of money to come here. How are you, like, just make sure you make the most out of it. Make sure once you're done engineering, you're set in life, like so you do come with that baggage that you have to prove yourself. And so coming into university, I was definitely a lot more serious that I need to succeed. It's not a want, it's a need, right?
mhm.
So I think there was that mentality, which I think was a lot more in the sorry, a lot more in the immigrant children as compared to the domestic people I saw, because they were like, okay, university is the next phase of life. But for them, it wasn't really like, okay, I'm spending this amount of money. It was just like, okay, yeah, I'm coming to university. This is where I need to study. For us, it was like, okay, we are leaving our family, leaving our money, and etc. So we were studying hard, and also we already had studied most of that in the schools prior because of Indian education having so much done already. So I thought it was a very interesting experience. I would say, like, socially, there was a lot of changes that I had to face. Go ahead.
I can say this is exactly why this guy, like for anyone who's watching, this guy had to stick up his ass for like almost like 4 years till like we could actually like we were like, hey, life is not that serious. This guy would literally just study 24/7, would probably actually just because of this guy, I almost ended up at the hospital.
Yeah,
Pardon
that's
me, but that's a whole other story that we can dive into. But oh my God, going through the
yeah.
struggles that I had to go through just because of like, and in all seriousness, but it figures that like where you're coming from, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And so yeah, I mean, this I think university was definitely interesting. I think the once I graduated, we saw perspective of different of our colleagues. Like some people like university, but I think the majority of people don't like it. And now I wanted to come to the question of you actually joining Microsoft and Amazon, and being a senior developer now at Microsoft. w- like
Almost
what
there. Almost there.
what do you think about like do you think university really prepared you for your life as a professional?
Right. So for anyone who's watching this guy basically gave you my entire life history and my workplace. Honestly, if you ever want to come say hi, you can. Please don't do that. Or actually, maybe you do. I can give you a nice tour. So as much as I love the people of university, and I would like to not sugarcoat this answer, I do not think university prepared me to get any of the jobs that I have gotten in the
Mhm.
past or the jobs that I am doing. Yes, there were some fundamental knowledge
Mhm.
that I achieved from university,
Yeah.
but could I have done this in a different path? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But I also think that like was university a means to an end? I think so. I'll give you an example. I think a lot of people today, in this day age and time, will say that like, hey, you should do a boot camp, or hey, you should do side projects, you should do this and that. You realize a lot of these like kids who are coming out of a lot of the bigger universities,
Mm-hmm.
namely, I don't know, like let's look in the States, Berkeley, Caltech, MIT, they do not have a lot of side projects, or they don't have a lot of certifications. I don't have any certifications whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't have anything under my belt. Yet, I think I was very fortunate enough to get these internships and get jobs. And I think that a lot of the time that happened is because I went to a big school.
Mm.
Yes, university education might not help you, but university name can put your resume past the other resumes that don't have that. That doesn't mean that like boot camps and side projects aren't as good. It's just that these are two different pathways. So if you're like, hey, I'm not going to go to university, but you're also going to expect that like, hey, I will be treated equally as the people who just have like side projects, then no, that's
Yeah.
that's like a very no in my opinion.
Yeah.
To me, university was always a means to an end.
Yeah, and I see this ideas floating around. See, like honestly, like I'm always a big like proponent or someone who agrees for university because I think university is definitely very useful. And I know there's like a bunch of people who will say no to me. They'll say like, hey, like we could have learned it ourselves, which we spend like
Mm.
like such a huge amount of money at the uni. I understand where they're coming from. I understand there's a lot of huge cost to it, but I see the side benefits. I see a lot of different benefits, except a degree as well. Personally, like for me, like I still see my C++ knowledge that I gained at university being used in interviews and being asked around. And if I go to like a little lower level companies, like which basically do like embedded work, etc., which is more like low level language work, they do
Mm.
actually utilize some of those fundamentals, in my opinion.
Right.
Uh, I do believe yes, universities could have been improved, but I think they, in my opinion, they did give us ample opportunities to, I think, explore. Um, ye- do I believe like like I did everything I should have at university? Definitely not. And then I think we'll touch on that, like how to make the most out of university in the future stages. But yeah, like I definitely think it prepared me somewhat for the real world. Not
Hmm.
exactly gave me all the right tools, but it did prepare me a little bit.
Right.
So I think that was
And
great. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
for sure, I can also just touch upon this a tiny bit more, just in the sense because, like, I do think there are fundamental knowledge from universities that are not one-to-one transferable.
Yeah.
I both, so when I say I, like, I think both me and Arnav took almost very similar level of courses and very
Yeah.
similar things, except for like our pathways kind of differed because I kind of went on the further side of the university knowledge, where university taught us like we both studied computer engineering, which is very like low level C++ or like a lot of like hardware embedded
Yeah.
level focused education. I moved away from it. I did a lot more like higher level back end, not like a lot of higher level front end. I didn't do a lot of front end, but a lot more back end, a lot more infrastructure, a lot more DevOps, which is not taught in university.
Yeah.
The way I took advantage of this is basically I wanted to just keep my embedded knowledge in university, but my interest lied in Azure DevOps
Yeah.
or any DevOps, Azure cloud-based services or AWS cloud-based services or DevOps. I said Azure DevOps because I keep on working on it. Uh,
Yeah.
but
He
I
bleeds
I learned
DevOps.
that by myself because that was in my interest to do so, and I tried getting internships that taught me that because that's something that I wanted to do, not because it wasn't offered by university or not because it wasn't like something that I could get out of university, it's because just like
Mm.
I thought that I was learning embedded and lower level stuff from university, so I wanted to do something else from my internship, which can give me the most amount of opportunities to learn about different areas of software.
Mm.
Um, that to say is like, and also at one point I think the other very fundamental skill that I learned from university was time management. In second year, almost like both me and Arnav had 40 hours of class week.
Yeah.
So that's 40 hours of lecture time, tutorials, labs, exams, everything combined, so 40 hours. Past these 40 hours, that's 8 hours of straight classes one day. You
Yeah.
had to study, you had to do your labs, you had to write papers, you have to write documents, you had to do your readings,
Yeah.
and you also would have to read prepare for your midterms and your
Oh yeah.
weekly tests from your tutorials. This is an insane amount of work. That's like closer to committing 80 to 100 hours a week. And we, both of us went through it. I don't think I'll ever, and I say this like knock on the wood, like I don't know if I will, but at least I think university prepped me to handle that stress.
Yeah,
And
no,
I
for
don't
sure.
think I can take any course outside or anywhere else or do any sort of certification that can teach me that. No matter what, like whenever work gets really hard, I just remind myself, hey, this is what I worked that hard for. I can keep on pushing myself to get through it. So I think that's that having that mentality for sure. That was like a non-transferable skill that I learned from university.
Yeah, definitely, and I totally agree, and I think that's what a lot of people forget. But I really like that. I really appreciate that. I think like let me just ask you a final question before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
So this podcast, right? Like, of course, like we came together for this podcast. What are your plans? What do you hope to achieve from these podcasts? What do you want to like bring say to the people, I guess, watching us?
Yeah, apart from roasting Arnav live on camera, can you imagine like I would roast him like in person, but I'm now roasting him in front of all these other people. It's a crazy life
With an
achievement. I
audience, yeah,
mean,
you got an audience now.
yeah, now I have like a full-on set of supporters who can like back me up on this and like make fun of everything that you like stand for. I'm absolutely joking. We're really close friends. This is how we maintain our friendship. But I think one thing that I would love to get out of this is like if even knowing if someone, even if we have one person who's watching this and
Mhm.
find this entertaining and there's some value in this that they can take out,
Yeah,
um I would love that. Like I think it's so valuable.
yeah,
um from it will make me happy that like my experiences aren't just going into waste. Like I think it's helping someone else in the future to like make these like decisions about their lifestyle.
yeah. And
Yeah,
I
so
think that's the value. I totally like. I think there's a very few YouTubers I see that are doing this, which are they're talking about life experiences, and also making it like like reachable to the audience. So I hope that we can probably reach to the audience and make it like a little more understandable that we're normal. We basically came here, we survived, and so can you. I think that's where we are at. I think you're very successful in your job. I think I'm doing pretty well for myself coming out of university, and we have very different pathways even in our future after university.
Mhm.
So my aim at least is like if we can do it, like things do get better,
Yeah.
and yeah, should work out for us.
And it's all about mentality, right? Like I mean, I think the other thing is like I think both of us have two different set of mentality to like approaching things where I'm very I like I don't like being super on top of things, but I also like I'm not like it's not like I'm kind of like laid back in that perspective where I'm like I like taking the back seat
Yeah,
and waiting and watching how things happen. But also I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be super lazy. So that's my perspective. Like just be chill versus you're like, hey, I want to get this done, this. Like
yeah,
I still can't believe this man has a calendar, which I think a lot of people do. You have your calendar invites with everything. I think till this day I still don't have a calendar.
yeah,
The fact that I remember all my invites in my head, this is actually bizarre. The fact that you will literally be like 8 o'clock, I want to do this, 9 o'clock, I want to do this, 10 o'clock, I want to do this, which is like insane to me. That's just like peak boomer mentality. That's why you're a boomer.
brother. Fair enough. Like honestly, like my memory is of a boomer as well. So if I don't have that calendar, I'll forget like 50 of those things. So great. I
Yeah.
think this wraps up our first episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think we touched a lot of points, and hopefully, like I think like in the future we can delve a little more deeper into these, depending on
Mm-hmm.
where we are at. But yeah, let's wait for the next episode, hopefully. And guys, like, share, subscribe. Uh, See you guys. Take care.